Sometimes modern life makes our minds feel like a storm. Thoughts about the past and worries about the future swirl endlessly and pull us away from the moment we are actually living. We rush from task to task, yet rarely breathe deeply enough to hear the world around us. Today's story will take you to a quiet coastal town in Maine, where the scent of salt and pine drifts through the air and time seems to slow with the tide. There, a young woman found a simple yet profound way to bring peace back to her heart. Stay with us until the end to discover the lesson she learned from an old boat carpenter. It is a lesson that might help you find calm within yourself today. Claire was a 30-year-old graphic designer living in Boston, a city alive with constant creativity and pressure. Her days were packed with meetings and deadlines, glowing screens, and endless notifications. Even when she stepped away from her desk, her mind refused to rest. During the day, thoughts about unfinished projects and uncertain choices crowded in without pause. At night, old memories and regrets kept her awake like an endless echo. The silence of midnight often felt louder than the noise of the day. Even on weekends, when she strolled along the coast near the city, the crash of the waves barely reached her. Her bright, easy laughter had faded into silence. Again and again, she asked herself, "How can I truly quiet my mind?" One mild morning, at the neighborhood farmer's market, Claire overheard two elderly women talking as they selected apples. Their voices were soft but full of warmth and memory. They spoke of Eli Mason, a retired boat carpenter who lived several hours to the north. He had once been renowned for crafting sailboats of remarkable strength and beauty. But many years ago, he left the noise and rush of city life to settle in a tiny harbor village, where he now worked slowly on small boats and sometimes welcomed visitors seeking quiet counsel. His name stayed with her, solid as pine wood and calm as the tide. After days of reflection, Claire felt a gentle pull in her heart and decided to make the journey, hoping to find an answer. One late afternoon, she set out, driving for hours along a rugged coastline where dark pines met the Atlantic. The scent of salt grew stronger as the road narrowed and the sky softened to rose and amber. The world outside her car seemed to slow with each passing mile. Finally, she reached a quiet harbor village. Wooden docks stretched over still water. An old boat workshop of weathered oak stood by the shore, its blue paint faded by years of sun and sea wind. The air carried a calm that she had almost forgotten. On the porch sat an old man with silver hair, carefully sanding a long, curved plank. The evening light wrapped around him like a gentle cloak. Before Claire could speak, he looked up and smiled. "You must have a heavy mind to come all this way," Claire answered softly. "My thoughts feel like a storm. I cannot stop them. I want peace. Can you help me?" Eli set down his tool and said kindly, "If you truly wish to learn how to quiet your mind, come with me. I have a small task for you." Eli led her inside. The air was rich with the scent of pine resin, and the faint tang of salt carried through open windows. In the center lay a long, curved plank of oak, soon to form the backbone of a new sailboat. Handing her a fine sheet of sandpaper, he said, "Sand this plank from end to end until it is smooth to the touch. Do not hurry. Move evenly. Listen to the sound of the sanding. Feel the grain of the wood and keep your mind here. When you are finished, call me." Claire took the sandpaper. At first, her hands trembled slightly, unused to this quiet work. But soon she began to breathe more deeply, each breath steadying her movements as she pressed the paper gently across the wood. The soft rasp of sandpaper filled the room like a quiet rhythm. Dust motes drifted in the warm light as the scent of freshly cut oak deepened. With each careful pass, the rough surface softened under her fingertips, smooth and warm to the touch. Outside, waves lapped against the dock. Children's laughter carried faintly on the breeze. Gulls wheeled and called high overhead. Yet all these sounds slowly faded into the background until there was only the sound of her own breath and the gentle scrape of paper. Her awareness narrowed to the texture of the wood and the rise and fall of her breathing. Minutes blended into something timeless. When at last the plank felt perfectly smooth, Claire looked up, surprised to see the sky beyond the window, glowing deep gold and rose. Eli returned quietly, running his hand along the plank. He nodded with satisfaction. "Well done." "While you were working, did you hear the waves or notice the children outside?" Surprised, Claire shook her head. "No. I only felt the wood beneath my hands and the rhythm of my breathing." Eli smiled gently. "That is exactly what I hoped you would discover. While you worked, the world did not disappear. The gulls still cried, the tide still moved. But your mind was here, entirely in this moment. You were not pulled back by the past, and you were not carried away by the future. In that space, the storm inside you simply vanished. Peace is not something far away. It already lives within you, waiting for you to return to the present. The word settled in her heart, like the soft grain of the oak beneath her palms. A quiet relief spread through her chest, warm and steady. The evening light seemed softer and more alive than she had noticed in years. As the sun lowered toward the horizon, Claire thanked Eli with a gentle smile and stepped out of the workshop. The winding road along the coast was the same as before, but she felt different, calmer and lighter. Whenever restless thoughts began to stir, she remembered the rhythm of her breathing and the steady motion of sanding wood, and the peace of that moment returned as naturally as the tide. Ease is not hidden in a perfect job or in some distant place. It lives in every moment we give our full presence. Whether sanding a piece of wood, savoring a morning cup of coffee, or listening to the sound of rain, when we stay with the present, fear of the future and the weight of the past quietly fade away. If this story touched you, share it with someone you care about, so they too can rediscover the calm already waiting inside them.